This is David with High Performance Stoicism. I want to talk to you about Stoicism and pleasure. What is the relationship? In brief, it's complicated. But I think to get a good sense of where the Stoics are coming from, I think it would be helpful for us to think about pleasure in our lives. Think about your life if you are living for pleasure. There are many people that do this. They just think about all the different ways they're going to get pleasure over the week. And what usually happens is they start looking for the weekend. They start looking to things like going out, drinking a lot, eating great things, and so forth. And we understand the appeal of these things, but is that really the best way to live, given that you're a human being? And here's one of the problems. During the week, you have to do a lot of things you don't want to do. You do them because they're required of you for your job, and so you can get money. And then, yes, you're going to get some pleasure out of it at some point, and there are little pleasures during the day. But is that really what we are meant to do? Especially given the fact that a number of the things we do, it's only because we have to improve our life. Now, the starting point for understanding the Stoic view goes all the way to the basis of human nature, to what we could call our species instincts, and it's involved in the theory that the Stoics call oikiosis. And this is translated as appropriation. It's a tricky concept. I'm only going to explain a little bit of it. But the Stoics start off by saying every animal, including human beings, each one of us has a distinct purpose. And that purpose is definitely not to seek pleasure and to avoid pain. That puts the Stoics at odds with another group from the ancient period they were in called the Epicureans. And there have been many philosophers since then who have said, oh, our masters are pleasure and pain. That's Jeremy Bentham. Now, the Stoics think if you look at human beings and if you look at all other animals, there's a more clear purpose that each of us has, and that is to protect and preserve our natural constitution. And you could definitely see it in other animals. You can see it in babies. They do want to get food, but that's for preservation, not because of the pleasure of it, because the babies don't really have a concept of the pleasure of things, although they can experience certain pleasures, for no doubt about that. But this is most clearly seen in other animals, and Seneca gives an example of a turtle. A turtle that goes on its back, on its shell, is quite frantic to get back on his feet. And what's the reason for that? It's not because of the pain of it, it's because the turtle has some kind of instinctive understanding that it naturally belongs on its feet. And you could say this for other animals. So bulls know, in some sense, they have an instinct that their horns are to ward off enemies or harm them, to gore them. And you could do this for any animal you want. So the Stoics start off with oikiosis by saying, pleasure is not our purpose. That's not what we are for. What we are here for is to preserve and protect our natural constitution. Now, with human beings, at some point we gain reason, and that becomes the thing to protect and to preserve. Once we have the faculty of reason, we could say, then that's going to be what we're going to be protecting. And that explains a big part of what Stoicism is. So here are a couple of problems that the Stoics pointed out with pleasure. One of them is if we make pleasure something of value, or even go as far as to say it's good, the problem with that is life is tough enough as it is. What makes life tougher is being a slave of pleasure, that people who are pleasure seekers find themselves becoming, and you don't want to do that. Too much of life is it's hard work, it's things we don't necessarily want to do, but we need to do them to keep going on to preserve and protect our constitution. Another problem with a philosophy of pleasure, a philosophy that makes pleasure good or something to be pursued, is the Stoics believe, how can we really be courageous if we are avoiding pain and pursuing pleasure? You're not going to be able to do the training that's going to make you tough. You're not going to be able to do the training that's going to make you courageous. And one thing Stoicism is trying to make you is courageous. So get the thought out of your mind that pleasure in itself is something to be pursued, but the question's going to be raised, but aren't you going to get some pleasures out of life? And here's where a innovation in Stoicism comes in. Most Stoics throughout the history of the school said pleasure is not a value, it's not natural to pursue, but a renowned philosopher named Panaetius, who was in the Middle Stoic group, he disagreed with his predecessors, and I think he's right. Pleasure is something to pursue, it is not a good. And when we talk about things like being a pleasure seeker, it's not something to seek like that, but moderate pleasures are natural to pursue. And I think that innovation of Panaetius is a is well backed up by it is in our nature to pursue many things like wealth, health, and a good reputation. And I think some pleasure it is natural to pursue. So we shouldn't say it's totally off the table because for many people, they would do what? What would happen? They would have to lie to themselves about why they're going out to a great dinner and enjoying a couple drinks. The more honest approach would be to say, yes, it is part of our nature. It's not the predominant thing, but it is a part of our nature. And it's rational to pursue pleasure in moderation. So that's the view of the Stoics as it pertains to pleasure. I hope you had some pleasure in this video by watching it. Please like, subscribe, give me your comments, and we'll see you in the next video.